This is a clip from the Cannon podcast. To hear the full episode and get access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.
Talking about Ben White. And I think he's a really underrated player, mate. Not just in terms of rivals, but in terms of just general, even within our fan base. I don't think this boy gets the praise that he deserves, personally. I think everybody goes, Ben White, yeah, good player. Important. First name on the team sheet, sure. But why isn't he spoken about as one of the best right backs in the league? And I think that when people start talking about this, it's Reece James, Trent Alexander-Arnold. That's it. Ben White never crops up, and I would argue he's somebody that's probably the most complete between the two. Perhaps Trent has a better elite skill. Perhaps Reece James has elite physicality. And Ben White doesn't have one elite thing, although I would argue, hand on heart, his anticipation is elite for a defender. And we talked about that with Carlos Cuesta.
There is nobody.
There isn't. I mean, that's his elite skill. But I think people just look at Ben White as just, this 7 out of 10 in every single aspect. What do you feel like Ben White's importance is to Arsenal? I mean, I think that we don't have a replacement for him in the squad. Like, I'm genuinely very worried if he were ever to be injured for a long time. But how important do you believe that Ben White has been to Arsenal, to Saka down the right-hand side? And where do you think he can go?
Yeah. I think he's so talented. I think he's so good. I think 50 million is. I think you'd be paying 100 for him now. Honestly, you'd be paying 80, 90, 100. Well, two things. I think firstly, in terms of the outside perception, the problem is we have a traditional idea of a right back in our head. Let's call that Gary Neville. Ultimately, this moment in time, right? Gary Neville. Someone like a Reece James is a more faster, technical, stronger, more pleasing on the eye aesthetically version of Gary Neville, right? But what that is like we go, that's a right back. And then someone like a Trent is nothing like that, but still a right back. So we go, that's not a right back, but I still like it. It's a different style. So we almost have these two ideas in our heads of like, you have the inverted fullback and then you have the more traditional fullback. That's fine. Because Ben straddles both, I think from an external perspective, people don't quite know whether he's a Reece James or a Trent. And I would say, well, he's neither. He's Ben White. And when you put in, if you said to me, right, so hi mate, imagine I'm coming to you and you're my scout, right? And I go, right, so what I need is a 6 foot, what is he, 6'1", leggy.
I think he's 6'2", yeah.
Wiry, but ability to play centre-back, full-back, who can run the channels, who can support his winger and get back and support on the outside, who isn't the best in the world in the outside channels, but is like very, very strong in the outside channels, who can ping a ball 90 yards, who could probably play DM. You'd be going, hang on, this guy doesn't exist. Like you're asking for too much. And that's what he is. Like, I don't think people realise the uniqueness of the profile, because we're kind of, again, we have this idea of like, we have an idea of a right back, then Ben White plays it, we go, yeah, that's near enough, rather than going, there's a role in the team, and looking at what Ben White does and go, all of those things, what do they mean for everyone else? What does that mean for Zinchenko? What can Zinchenko go and do? What does that mean for Saka? What can he go and do? What does that mean for Martin Odegaard? What can he go and do? So if you had a name for the White role, like Ben White plays it to the best ever, because that role hasn't necessarily existed, that kind of elbow fullback. Like he's one of the best elbow fullbacks, if you want to call it that, ever. But because we don't have that idea in our heads naturally, I don't think it's not like it's different from a traditional fullback, and it is different from that inverted fullback, then we don't appreciate it. I don't think. I think most fans just go, yeah, he plays right back pretty well. It's like, yeah, he does play right back pretty well, but he plays the inverted fullback at a world class, the elbow fullback at a world class level.
Well, I've had debates in terms of his actual defending being very poor, people believe, like in 1v1, and I just very much disagree. Like, I mean, his anticipation of space, not to keep going back to that, is among the best in the world. And by the way, it's not just in a defensive aspect in terms of transition controls. I think part of the problem, mate, is he's a bit of an ass. Like, he is so good in the dark arts. Like, I genuinely think rivals hate him because he's that nit. Like he's just that player where he'll pull you, he'll tug you, and you're like, what the hell? That's a foul, and the ref won't see it.
And then he'll laugh
he'll
at
go
you.
and he'll and then he'll laugh at you.
And in the lineup, he's like this.
Yeah.
He just doesn't look like he cares, but then he'll go and pull out a 9 out of 10.
He is the most peculiar personality in football, where I just feel like he doesn't want to be there.
Sorry,
he's just
so
world
funny.
class.
He's literally just like, all right, what am I doing? Yeah, all right.
And I wonder, does that play a role in the narrative? Yeah, like genuinely, like I think like people.
You feel like Trent's trying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like and even Reese, like it's just that hard nosed. I will get it. I'll kick you off the park.
Yeah.
Like Ben is not that. He is completely a different narrative. Yeah. And look, I can't keep singing high enough praise for Ben. I think that I worry about us if we have to go into an extended period without Ben in the team. I don't know who offers that level. One thing that I think has been brilliant, by the way, this year has been the switches. And I know that we were talking about this in the summer. And, I was like, look, I remember back when we had with David Luiz his ability to switch from right to left. And it was in my projection of him as a potential DM, by the way. I still think he is so good, it wouldn't shock me that we change his role yet again if we find somebody, and he'll do brilliant at it. And we'll sit there and we'll say, oh, he was always a DM. He's just one of those players that in the manner of, I think, like, Jose Mourinho said it best. If I had 11 Cesar Azpilicuetas, I would win the Champions League. I get that feeling with Ben White. If I had 11 Ben Whites, I would win whatever trophy. I would.
Arteta almost said that, didn't he? He said something like, he said, like, if you're sick, if you get 25, 6'2", technically able, like, he just basically described Ben White. And said,
he described Ben White,
yeah. But no, you're right. And just on that briefly is like, you're right. What I think the only thing we can guarantee is change. That's the only thing we can guarantee with football. That is the only thing, right? So I think the idea that Ben White will be doing this role for the rest of his career in the way he's doing it now is the more fanciful idea than Ben White's going to be doing other things for me. And then it's like, well, what else could he be doing? And I'm less convinced on the DM thing. I think he'll actually go back into a different defensive role. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, he could become. So what you're saying is he could become a left winger, and he is our new marquee.
I'm actually saying he'll retire early and take over from Arteta, and he'll be like late to games. Like, what did I have to? Oh right, there's a game today, and then win it 7-0. No,
100%. And so look, Ben White is definitely an enigma, and it's an enigma that we will continue to praise here on the channel because I'm a Ben White fan. If there's something that Ben White does, I would be there. I will be there. And guys, go ahead. I'm not going to do it. I'm certainly not doing it.
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To get full episodes and access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.